Hello, I'm Kristy Allen, and you're listening to the Tsunami of Truth podcast here on jmcbroadcasting.com for February 8th of 2026. To all Anons, digital warriors, and patriots, we are visibly nearing the end. Whether anyone knows who you are or not, you will go down in history as the chosen ones who participated in a covert fifth-generation World War III. Where we go one, we go all. That was from JFK Jr. at 17th letter regarding the military-civil alliance. And the way I think about that is that we did this. We were chosen ones because we chose in. We decided to participate in this. And it took some faith. And when I think of where we were when we started and where we are now, it's really been amazing to be a part of this. And while the rest of the world was arguing this weekend over halftime snacks and prop bets, the U.S. Treasury was performing a quiet execution of the old world's leverage. On Friday, February 6, 2026, the Treasury finalized a massive $6 billion debt buyback for the first week of February. So what am I talking about? Well, let's play dot to dot. Question: why on earth would the government buy its own debt back now? Answer: to clean up the plumbing of the bond market. They are removing the old, stagnant debt from the system, specifically long-dated bonds maturing as far out as 2055, to make room for a new sovereign flow. Remember that word, sovereign. Why do I say that? Well, look at the result of this. We aren't asking Wall Street or the UK banking cartels for permission anymore. Notice that. This is huge, people. The Federal Reserve is now government-owned under the U.S. Treasury. That sound you hear? That's the least of the UK and globalist debt machine snapping. To the doubters and the slopaganda victims, sit up straight and look at the scoreboard. Here is the evidence gathered by Vincent Sky Castro and David Sorensen that proves there is a plan we can trust. Just check this off. This is what the white hat military and Donald Trump have worked and sacrificed everything to achieve over the past several years. First of all, they ended the pandemic. They stopped a 10-year enslavement plan in its tracks. They prevented the Great Reset, shielded mankind from the World Economic Forum's Own Nothing and Be Happy agenda. Remember that? They halted the destruction by preventing the planned 2016 demolition of America. And Epstein was foreclosed upon. Jeffrey Epstein and his sexual blackmail ring used to control world leaders was dismantled. Free speech was restored. This ended mass censorship and empowered the alternative media to counter the fake news liars. Wow, and we did a good job, didn't we? Cartel collapse, arrested heads of global drug cartels, and ended the world's greatest trafficking operations and all those who were behind all of that. We exited the WHO, effectively preventing their plan for world domination. By abolishing the United Nations, we're now currently dismantling the one world government agenda. And remember the Doge audit? Trump sent IRS agents to investigate the century of fraud found by the Doge audit. There's been a tax revolution. He announced no more income tax. The government will be financed through tariffs, like it was originally, and a 14% tax on new luxury items only. No taxes on food or medicine. We now have election integrity, exposing the fraud of the past, and it's making global elections safe again by taking care of what was going on in Venezuela. Remember that? We now have a deep state eradication exposing the rot in the CIA, FBI, and DOJ for the whole world to see. There's been a war on trafficking, launching a worldwide offensive against child trafficking and human rights abuse. There's also been a faith restoration, bringing prayer and the Bible back into public buildings. We have educational freedom now by abolishing the Department of Education in March of 2025 to end the brainwashing of our youth. We have healthy nutrition again, ending the poisoning of our food and restoring real nutritional standards. We have border sovereignty, ending the mass invasion that was designed to destroy the American fabric. Defunding evil, ending the worldwide funding of deep state activities through the CIA Mossad front called USAID. Wealth restoration, ending the massive theft of trillions of American tax dollars. We have a Hollywood clean-out, ending the satanic rule in Tinseltown, appointing Gibson and Stallone as Trump's eyes in the industry. We have a climate scam end, exposing the climate change agenda as an excuse for global tyranny. And finally, we have vaccine sanity, ending childhood vaccine mandates and reducing the schedule from 70 shots to 9. So let's go back to the moment the boomerang was carved. Remember when Q mentioned friends close but enemies closer? That ploy from the Godfather? Yeah, well, everyone talks about Trump and Epstein being friends, but only one man actually helped the law when it mattered. In 2009, when attorney Brad Edwards was fighting the impossible battle against the deep state protected Epstein, Edwards called everyone in the Palm Beach Rolodex. Most people hung up. Most of them were terrified. Trump was the only one who picked up. He didn't just pick up, he invited Edwards into his office and he told him, I know this guy's a creep. I kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago in 2007 for harassing a massage therapist. Trump then gave Edwards the most valuable asset in the world, information. He allowed his staff to testify. He shared what he knew about Epstein's recruiters, and he helped the FBI build the case that the DOJ under Alexander Acosta eventually tried to bury with that sweetheart deal they gave Epstein that first time around. Trump saw the rot in 2009, and he's been the only one with the stomach to cut it out ever since. The fact that Epstein was let off with a slap on the wrist back then was a declaration of war against the American people, and Trump took that personally. So who was Jeffrey Epstein? He wasn't just a financier. He was a high-level intelligence asset acting as a bridge for the Rothschild banking dynasty. His job was to compromise world leaders and scientists to ensure that the old guard kept their grip on the future. At his 33,000 square foot Zorro Ranch in New Mexico, Epstein wasn't just partying. He was running a dark eugenics project. He openly discussed plans to impregnate 20 women at a time to seed the human race with his DNA. He surrounded himself with Nobel-level scientists to discuss transhumanism and genetic royalty. This wasn't a fantasy. It was a harvest. He was looking to create a biological control grid, treating human beings like livestock for a globalist super race agenda. Where have we heard that before? This is the level of depravity Trump stepped into the ring to stop. Now, we get to talk about the bird squawking at the gate. Why are patriot voices like Thomas Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene, who I really used to like, who resigned January 5th, 2026, attacking AG Pam Bondi? That was the question I had when I did a deep dive on this, and I had to look at the timing. Greene quit her seat on January 5th, claiming self-respect, but was she really positioning herself for a 2028 presidential run? These voices are acting like they're the only ones who want the truth, but they're playing a dangerous game called the purity trap. So let's do some dot-to-dots on this what I'm calling sabotage. Question. They want the unredacted release of all 3.5 million Epstein pages right now. Now, why is that bad? Well, the answer is because it burns the witnesses. There are court cases going on. And the reality is that those files contain redactions to protect the flippers, those on the other sides with information, and they have also got to protect the survivors and the insiders currently testifying in secret. If Bondi releases those names prematurely, those witnesses are put in the crosshairs, and the cabal can silence them before the final trials. And they've done that too many times. And that's why they get people like Epstein to just walk away. The dirty birds like Massey and Green are drafting inherent contempt resolutions with people like Ro Khanna. When America First starts singing in harmony with the far left, you have to ask who's paying the conductor. This is slopaganda, using the truth as a weapon to destroy the process. And this process is important, and timing is everything. And then there's Candace Owens, and I like Candace Owens. A lot of people are asking, is she CIA? And a lot of people are asking why she has pivoted so hard against the administration. Is she positioning herself for a run with someone like Massey or even a unity ticket for president? They aren't protecting the victims. They're weaponizing them to stop the momentum and stay relevant as the old political world crumbles. It's funny how they find their principles only when the real Epstein names start leaking. They don't want the truth. They want Trump's seat. And now let's get into what we are uncovering with Epstein. And of course, I had to go here. We're talking about Mormon blood, right? Well, I grew up Mormon. And I've been asking, why on earth? Why the obsession with Mormon blood? Well, I've actually been looking at this for years now. Why was the Mormon Church sold into the mind control programs at Dugway Proving Ground, like Mitt Romney's dad was supposedly the one who did this? That's what Kathy O'Brien told us. The Davidic genetic target is what we're zeroing in on. According to whistleblowers like Kathy O'Brien, the cabal is obsessed with the Davidic bloodline, the line of David. They believe those genetic markers were well preserved in the LDS community and that they have a specific resonance for trauma-based programming. In other words, they're really good to be used in the MK Ultra program. They weren't just looking for blood, they were looking for biological assets. There was apparently a hijacked signal. The cabal used the programmed obedience found in tightly knit religious cultures like the Mormon Church to install Project Monarch overlays. They told the leadership it was for national security, but Dugway, which is an 800,000 acres of desert silence, was used to farm these bloodlines for a global control grid. Epstein wanted that blood because he believed it held the key to genetic royalty. This is why Trump's war on trafficking is so deep. It's about reclaiming the human genome from the monsters who thought they owned it. Now let's look at the legal boomerang. On January 15th, 2026, the Supreme Court handed down the ruling in Bost versus Illinois, and this is really important. For years, they said Trump had no standing. SCOTUS just ruled 7-2 that a candidate always has standing to challenge the rules. This is a SCOTUS bombshell that is basically allowing Trump to take back 4 stolen years. And it's a fair ask, because if the rules were broken in 2020 and the court now admits that he had the standing to stop it, then those 4 years were constitutionally stolen. And in a thing like this, you've got remedy. And in contract law, if you are illegally barred from your term, you are entitled to specific performance. The demand for his stolen 4 years isn't just a fair ask. It's a legal necessity to restore the republic. As of Sunday night, February 8th, this is a big story. The UK government is in a tailspin. Morgan McSweeney, Keir Starmer's chief of staff, just resigned. The reason was he recommended the appointment of Peter Mandelson as ambassador in spite of the fact that Mandelson had deep Epstein ties. Does the UK suddenly have moral standards and no desire to support this any longer? Because the silence has become deafening around this issue. The truth is this. The 3.5 million pages of files being released in the United States are radioactive when it comes to the Epstein files. The UK faction is fleeing because they have no plan B for a sovereign America. And without their financial leash, that is what we are fast becoming. This is my conclusion. As a whistleblower, I've had to look into the darkness and find my own light. And I want to share something that goes beyond the headlines here. We've spent centuries waiting for a savior, looking for a king, or placing our bets on a game that was rigged before the coin toss. But look what is happening today, right now, on Monday. This isn't just a news cycle, it's a spiritual graduation. Patriots, it is Monday morning, so forget a stupid game with bad halftime shows. The fact is, the law of the sea is over. The law of the land is here. Donald Trump didn't just win, he foreclosed on an empire. He protected the victims when Brad Edwards called in 2009, and he's protecting them now. He saw the creep in Epstein and he threw him out of Mar-a-Lago in 2007 while the rest of the world looked away. And that is a documented fact. But this is bigger than one man. We are witnessing a spiritual graduation. We have lived in a world where we thought we were just voters or taxpayers, just cogs in a machine owned by the Rothschilds and managed by the Epsteins. But that reality is dissolving. The multiverse isn't just a sci-fi concept. It's the realization that there is a version of this world where the truth wins every single time, and you are standing in it. The slapaganda isn't meant to keep you focused on the 3 legs, the armless, the AI pictures, and the squawking birds. But look up. The stars are aligned, the debt is being paid, and our human genome is being reclaimed. And I got a higher take on this. We are going from saved to sovereign. As a whistleblower, I've had to look into the darkness and find my own light. And today, I want to share something that goes well beyond these headlines. When you see the dirty birds squawking, when you see the UK faction not only packing their bags but fleeing, and when you see the lion reclaiming his stolen years through the very courts that once shunned him, that just might be the multiverse shifting. What if this entire drama, the masks, the $6 billion bombs, isn't just a rescue mission? What if it's a spiritual graduation? If Trump is a mask for a brilliant military plan, it forces us to ask, do we have the courage to be our own leaders? What if the higher plan wasn't about scaring us into submission, but disillusioning us from the fake leaders so we can reclaim our own sovereignty? Moving from the illusion of being saved to the reality of being sovereign. Because look at what has happened just this year alone. Remember the old song, Born Free? Well, here we are. And maybe we arrive not in spite of all the terrible things we've seen, but because of them. What if all we went through was to hone us and prepare us for this moment in time when those who have ruled for thousands of years just packed their bags and left? And now what? Well, you've looked into the programs, the bloodlines, the graft, and the very face of evil. You've seen the darkness, and yet your spirit is still here. You've gained a lot of wisdom in these difficult years, haven't you? That clarity you feel isn't just an emotion, it's your internal compass. What if the cage door isn't just opening? What if the cage itself has been dismantled? We've been conditioned to wait for a hero, to vote for a savior, to look for a king. But the white hats aren't just giving us fish. They are destroying that rotten boat we were trapped in. that cage. Patriots, you're free. Get off that boat. Walk onto the dry land and don't look back. In my opinion, this journey isn't about looking for a king to sit in a gold chair. Real power isn't in a seat in Washington or a throne in London. The real power is in the sovereign seat of your soul. That is where the handover happens. Trump is just the locksmith. You are the one who gets to walk through that door or not. The cage door is open now, so feel free to walk out as the sovereign being you were always meant to be. Thanks for listening to the Tsunami of Truth podcast. I'm Kristy Allen here on johnmichaelchambers.com.
The Federal Reserve is no more a government agency than Federal Express. The Federal Reserve is a corporation founded and run by international bankers.
The Global Financial Reset is not just another podcast or episode of pertinent current discussions concerning economic-related issues. It's also an ongoing educational workshop series.
Join me and my prominent guests every Wednesday live at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on JMC Broadcasting's backup Rumble channel on X, Facebook, and YouTube. Sign up for JMC's free weekly war report, including notifications of when the Global Financial Reset show is published. The future is bright, and it belongs to us, not to the global elite.
You can survive and thrive this reset transition, but it takes action on your behalf. The Global Financial Reset Workshop Series gives you the tools to get out of the system with confidence.